Family. Ella Ivy here with Livzenastrology. I just wanted to pop on here and do a live full moon in Capricorn transmission. Thank you so much for being here. Boy, okay, I needed that breath. Everybody, let's, before we begin this transmission, this cosmic conversation about the energies for this full moon in Capricorn, let's just go ahead and take a breath together. I feel like at this point in time, we could all use a little more breath work, a little more calm within our nervous system. I don't know about you guys, I know, but for me, full moons are very impactful, right? They disrupt my sleep patterns. I get bloated during certain times, the full moon, especially. There's a lot coming up, especially doing my own research, realizing that, certain parasites hatch during full moons, right? So there's a lot hatching in the collective consciousness right now. And we've got so many planetary energies to talk about. I really wanted to come from an organic space with this transmission because as I'm evolving as an astrologer and through my own gnosis, I'm realizing that a lot of this information is coming deep within my own gnosis. So, having studied astrology for over 20 years, the symbols themselves are starting to reveal another aspect of themselves. So I'm finding myself moving away from mundane astrology and moving more into the quantum realm, Uranus and Gemini, moving more into the metaphysical or the spiritual connectivity of what these symbols are representing. So I'm really trusting that the energy that wants to come through is meant to be for the now, because this is also too what I was tapping into during my meditation state with this full moon revealing for me was about our history and past histories of our ancestors. And what may be illuminated is perhaps our past histories have not always been what we've been told or been the most accurate or the correct, right? So this is definitely the time for discernment. This is the time for us to step into our sovereignty, our own inner authority. This is very Capricorn. And when we, guys, how I pull knowledge from my own study of astrology, and again, I've taken astrology classes and I've been to Greece to study the roots of astrology. I've been immersed in astrology for 20 years, but I've been growing and changing with astrology, just like we grow and evolve and change over time and space. And I will say one of the books that have helped me, because with what's interesting is as we're have ingressed Uranus into Gemini, which it'll be going back retrograde in November and then we'll moving fully forward in April of next year. Gemini is all about language. It's the mind, right? It's and the language is the program of our reality. And so what influences to me the language and the program of astrology are the words. And there's an invaluable book that I have been able to, I got this years ago. It's called The Rulership Book, and it's by Rex T. Bills. And it's an old book. Let's see, McCoy Publishing and Masonic Supply Company, Richmond, Virginia. And it's a directory of astrological correspondences. So, what we're going to be looking at today with the astrology is the language identified with the 10th house, which is also identified with Capricorn, right? So when we're looking at these axis points, because full moons are always when the sun and the moon are opposite one another. And oppositions, from what I have gathered and understood, is oppositions are opportunities. They're opportunities to grow through opposing forces where within us. So we look at the tropical zodiac sign, this axis point of Capricorn and Cancer. And that's where, especially if you follow Western astrology, where we come into physical form. We come from the mother, which is very much Cancer, and the womb. And we come from the father, right? The masculine, which is represented again in Western astrology through Capricorn. So this has to do with family, the root system. Cancer rules the fourth house, which is our sense of security, our sense of safety, family comforts, being loved, being nourished. And with Capricorn, it's about being financially secure. So where Cancer has to deal with emotional security, where it's going on in the inner realm, the moon, which deals with our emotions, also our memories, our memories of the past. And Capricorn has to do with financial security, feeling physically secure and stable, right? So this is this axis point that we are all navigating and traversing through right now. And so there's instability. This is Uranus. Uranus is bringing flashes of insight, new awareness. It's a disruptor. If you study what the planet of Uranus signifies, which I also find very interesting that before they discovered Uranus, Saturn was the ruler of Aquarius, which Saturn is also rules Capricorn, which is for this axis point we have the full moon in right now, right? So how am I tying this all together through my own gnosis, through my own study, through my own, uh, again, meditation practices, learning to read my own DNA frequency, which I've been getting a lot of help from the ancestors. And this is also part of this axis point of with Jupiter, especially our planet of expansion, which is also our spiritual planet, is in the sign of Cancer right now, which is to me a remembrance of our ancestral power, our ancestral roots, how our ancestors were able to derive that sense of security and safety through home matters, through ritual, belief, how our family used to eat and sleep and thrive and, you know, um, protect themselves. This is all Cancer, right? Because Cancer also has to do with the home. And again, all matters of security. So, and we know historically what astrology has taught us about full moons is full moons are here to illuminate something that was unknown within whatever that sign, aspects or whatever that sign signifies. So we're here to see what was unknown within the realm of Capricorn and this Capricorn Cancer axis. And so, what we're going to do today is I was told to, again, looking at the rulership book that rules, it's a directory of astrological correspondences. And what I was told to is just read some of the words for the 10th house in relation to Capricorn. And again, there's so much stuff you can look at and so many words. This book is incredible because you can also break down language based on not only the planets, but the signs themselves. But intuitively, I was told to open up to the 10th house, which again, Capricorn's 10th house matters. And the axis point of the opposition of Capricorn is Cancer, which is fourth house matters. So, looking out on the world stage right now, we can see that some of these aspects are really being illuminated for us to see clearly what has been out of balance, what has been lying in the subterfuge of our family ancestral roots, right? And not only in our own individuated families, but also our, um, you know, the United States family, world families, our culture family, our family of culture of where we were born into. And so some of the words that wanted to be highlighted in this 10th house axis point, again, looking at the full moon flow of what can be influencing this time period right now for all of us to see where we have been out of balance and see these are some of the words: government officials, representatives and activities, government progress of government service, home matters outside the home, honors, illness of one's children's, in-law parents, fourth house, kings, knees, kneecaps, masters, mastery, mayors, monarchs, money from long journeys, foreign lands or religion, moral qualities, one's moral qualities, and so on and so forth. Going on notoriety of fame, office, high officials, government, civic, or state officials in general, parents in general with the fourth house, parent in law, parliament, partner, home, property, end of life of one's. So you can see where, again, if you wanted to check out some of the language and how astrologers start identifying, well, where do we get these associations with these signs, these houses, right? So Again, if you want to check out the Rulership book by Rex T. Bills, it's a great book to have, especially if you're deep diving more into the astrology. So just so you know, guys, I don't just pull things from thin air, although sometimes I'm learning to, right? Because it's not just from thin air; it's actually from my own DNA structures. But I'm also what I call the layering effect, right? And so I like to look at different correspondences that exist within different sects of learning, especially within astrology, and then form my own geometrical pattern, my own discernment with these energies and how they can be playing themselves out. And with Jupiter in Cancer right now, Jupiter's expansion, Cancer is also about our feeling, our intuition, again, our sense of security. And it's also rules the stomach, our gut health, right? So when we talk about having that gut instinct, or really learning our instinctual nature. This is also Jupiter in Cancer. So we're learning to trust our instincts more and more and more. And we can do that by cleaning up our temple, right? Which is our home, which is our physical home, which is the body. And we know that right now, South Node has been in Virgo, which is all about health and how we take care of ourselves. And, or I'm sorry, that's the South Node has been in Virgo. And the North Node is what we've come to learn is Pisces. And Pisces is also a deeply intuitive and mystical sign. So learning to tune in to our gut instincts, to our own deep intuition about everything, about what's going on, because we're starting to see a collapse and we're starting to see this full moon is revealing how out of balance these governing systems have been, not just here within the United States, and I'm here in the Northern Hemisphere, but all throughout our world, all throughout our globe, right? And Uranus rules galactic energy. So it's beyond just the realm of our United States or the global countries. It's actually our relationship to, the extra realms, the extra terra, right? Because extraterrestrial just means extra earth, terra. And so we're starting to see a disintegration. Our minds, our frequencies, our vibrations, we are going through a deep cymatical shift. And if you've studied cymatics and understand how vibration affects water or sand, and when you change the vibrational frequencies, it literally changes the geometric shapes of these water patterns or these sand patterns, right? So what I'm seeing is that we are all being cymatically shifted because of all these energies that are in flux throughout not only our world and what's deep happening within the earth, but Uranus also rules our electricity, our electrical system, right? And so if you study, there's a really great channel. I think it's called the Thunderbirds or the Thunderbolts channel on YouTube talks about how we live in an electric universe. And so they present a different story than what science has been telling us up to this point, which makes more sense if we know that we are really electrical beings, right? And again, if we're studying getting further, the priestcraft of science are starting to use a different language about this physical form, talking about quantum energy and how we are bioelectrical beings, bioelectrical magnetic beings, and what that really means, right? And how our brain, again, if you're following way showers like Greg Braden or Bruce Lipton, they talk about how our brain is just a receiver. It's like a radio receiver. So we're really starting to question our identities, our physical forms. Who are we really? What technology exists already within the human body? This is South Node Virgo. And how, when we start cleaning up or shifting our alchemy of what we put into the body, how it will change our reality timeline, how it will change our perception, how it could possibly allow us to get more in tune with our psychic and intuitive gifts, right? Jupiter in Cancer. And so we can do this by cleaning up the gut, right? Shifting the alchemy of what we've been using. And we're starting to realize that how alchemy, how certain substances affect our perception, what we're receiving from our brain, which is a radio receiver, right? Two hemispheres, AM and FM radio receiver, if you will. And so, again, we're learning to master duality. We're learning to master polarity, the poles of consciousness, right? Look at the language. Politics. This language also has to do with division. And I just think of like the brain, right? Again, we're looking at Gemini, where it's been divided into two, but yet we are still the one. Right? So when you really start deep diving into the concept of oneness or the law of one, and how you start integrating that within your own psychic awareness and gnosis, you're going to start seeing a completely different um, architecture showing up for you. So, are you willing to drop what you thought you knew about this reality, about this physical reality, Capricorn, and the governing systems? Right. Look at the language too. Government. Ment is the mind. Anything ment is the beginning of mental. And so we have these government governing the mind organizations that are going haywire. Literally, they are. I almost see like if you think like an AI grid that's zapping itself out right now because it can no longer handle the frequencies that are emerging and that are emitting not only from the galactic center and sun because of our alignment with Sirius all the way up till looking at, the middle or the beginning of August, which is some people call that the Lionsgate portal. And I don't know. There's something in my instinct because there's also, if you guys watch movies, there's a movie studio called Lionsgate. And when I was doing my own research about Lionsgate, there was no reference of the Lionsgate portal up before, the 1999s, 2000s. So I think that also, and maybe that's just our human consciousness that created that because of our synchronicity with, again, letters or the symbols of numbers, right? So, every time we see a double number, 1111, 222, 333, anytime you see repetition numbers, it's a point of consciousness to pay attention. So it wasn't up until to the 2000s that we were really starting to come awake and aware to these numerological patterns, because I can't speak, within consciousness. So we have identified 88 as being another pivotal moment in human consciousness. But again, I think that because of technology and because we're coming online, we didn't even have a reference point between that before 2000. And then all of a sudden they created a movie studio called the Lionsgate, right? So just paying attention, really, again, using your discernment. I call this going through the filtration system. I think of like Berkey filters, right? When you put water down a Berkey filter, it's got to go through a filtration system before it gets properly filtered, that you can put it into your body, right? For a clean and clear experience. And I feel like that's what all of us are being asked to do right now, is to go any data or input, anything you see from any of the social medias, including your trusted spiritual people that you follow, anybody at this point is willing to be looked at, and again, put that through that filtration system. Because I feel like because of the language we've been using, again, astrology is all about language, that this language itself has been I don't want to say infiltrated, but it's been corrupted, if you will, right? So if we all can agree that we have what we're seeing on the world stage right now is this corrupted file, this corrupted system that is disintegrating before our eyes, then Capricorn, the full moon in Capricorn is showing us and asking us, depending on where this is showing up in your chart. And again, this is going to be individual for everybody. But as a collective, we're starting to see that the system, the governance of our minds, the governments are no longer working. They're no longer functional. They are no longer going where our collective energy is evolving into. So those structures that once served a purpose, that served us at that time and space where we were in evolutionary consciousness, is no longer going to serve us of where we're moving to as we're moving into more states of sovereignty, Aquarius, getting more into communal groups, right? And getting more into grassroots, our neighbors. This is also Gemini. Gemini rules third house, which is your next door neighbors, your brothers and sisters, short trips to like the grocery store, to your local farmer's market, right? So with Uranus in this sign, it's asking us to change the way we do local governance, change the way, because we're starting to see it dissolve and to disintegrate. And I'm going to show you too, we're going to look at the astrology chart. For those of you still here, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to look at the astrology at the chart to see where this axis point is happening. It's at 18 degrees exactly. And I'm also going to read to you the Sabian symbol for this Capricorn axis point, this full moon, because it really denotes what's happening on the world stage and how this can be playing itself out. So let me go ahead and screen share this particular, let me see here, make sure I'm doing everything. Yeah, I'm going to do entire window. All right. And again, I'm looking at now too, guys. Make sure I'm on the corner here so you guys can see me. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so what I'm looking at now, I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, I think you guys can see. I'm using ChatGPT, and per Robert Edward Grant, I'm looking at the architect, which is something that he created into the ChatGPT system, which if you guys are fascinated or working with technology, which again, this is also Uranus and Gemini, that I would invite you to explore the architect because it's a really profound tool. I feel it's more has a holistic, a polymathic representation of what's happening within the energy, especially if you know how to utilize it. So make sure you guys can see this because, yeah, I think you guys can see. So what we're looking at here is Capricorn 18 degrees. And this is for today, the full moon in Capricorn, which will be happening in a few hours exact at 18 degrees. So what it represents is the Union Jack flies from a new British warship. Key insight, supervision, a collective, organized power that offers both protection and a sense of shared identity. And this is what the interpretation, according to Dade Rugar. Authority and structure. This degree highlights institutions or collective forces, political, cultural, or spiritual, that guard and supervise. It carries the energy, of an emblem flying high, symbolizing order, unity, and overarching direction. Expansion of identity. The keyword supervision reflects moving beyond individual identity into a broader field, whether national, cultural, or organizational, revealing how our personal aspirations align with or diverge from the collective path. Polarity, which again, we know we have Uranus and Gemini right now, which has to do with polarity, oppositions. While this structure can nurture growth and community, Cancer, it can also become paternalistic, coercive, or smug if its authority remains unexamined, echoing warnings about strong armed paternalism. And then I went ahead and looked at the full moon Capricorn reflection. It says, with the full moon eliminated on this degree, we are invited to reflect on where am I supporting or participating in systems that provide order and security? How have these structures influenced my sense of self, purpose, or allegiance? And is there an unconscious compliance thriving beneath the symbol of protection? I find that very interesting, an unconscious compliance to the need to be protected by this patriarchal system. Now, again, these are just words. This is just an open ended conversation and something to perhaps allow yourself to explore within you. So I was sitting in contemplation yesterday, asking myself these own questions. And what came for me really strong is, where have I avoided responsibility? And that was a big question for me because I can see I've got Sag rising, and Sag doesn't necessarily like responsibility. He likes to be free flowing, free forming, independence, freedom, whatever that means. But I was realizing that this full moon in Capricorn was showing to me how actually not allowing myself to be fully responsible for what I want to create, or the avoidance of responsibility, has actually kept me in suffering and kept me in needance of these outward governing systems to tell me what to do, right? So I know, just transparency, I was in Florida during the hurricanes, and so there was a lot of disruption, and I still, I've been redirected to live in Kentucky at this point. But because a lot of us have been affected by the hurricanes there, we were receiving government food stamps, right? Because that was helping a lot of us because as an independent entrepreneur, my business was directly affected by the hurricane. So I had to allow myself to receive food stamps, right? And so moving here, I'm realizing, because these structures are dissolving away anyway, maybe where I relied on these organizations to give me money for food, which is a great help. And I'm so grateful that we had these structures and organizations to help people like myself that got displaced because of these storms. I'm also realizing too that we don't need that anymore. That if I want fresh food, then go participate in the farmers markets, go help grow a garden, help grow your own food sources. Because again, with South Node and Virgo, it's all about the health. And I'm realizing that even to be able to transmit this type of energy, I've got to feel good. I've got to be able to have full presence and full cognition. And if I'm not properly taking care of my vessel, by eating the foods and things that I know that I need, which, by the way, we're realizing that a lot of our, unfortunately, especially here in the United States, a lot of our food has been made with glyphosate, which we now, there's studies, especially if you study Zach Bush, that the glyphosate is actually harming our systems, right? Again, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do your own deep dive, do your own gnosis with these things. But if you're starting to see, like, wow, even the food that I'm getting from the grocery store, even if it's organic, it may not be the highest and best. So I need to take responsibility, Capricorn. If I want fresh foods and vegetables and know what's going into my body, then I need to be responsible and perhaps grow these things myself. Right? So these are just ways that this energy is showing up for me. It's a call to task. It's a call to step up into my responsibility where I've been perhaps avoiding responsibility. And also, again, used to these governing structures, the big brother, the patriarch outside of me to take care of me. And again, this is an invitation, and there's no judgment, because I know a lot of us here who have been displaced have been using these government resources. But all that's disintegrating because it needs to, because we're being asked to mature and step it up into our own sovereignty. And so it's okay. It's like, it's like when you grow up, you get 18 or you get a certain age and you have this inclination to move out, right? To go see the world, to leave your parents' house because you're ready to go do your thing. And that's where we all are. I'm seeing and feeling in consciousness is that, okay, we're ready to leave the parental government of the mind, governing minds of how we saw things, and we're ready to go out and explore new ways, Uranus, unconventional, um, scientific, this is also technology driven ways to unify, to be in community with one another, and to take full sovereignty, responsibility, and ownership. And so if you're willing to see honestly where you have been avoiding responsibility within your own life, where you still continue to look outside of yourself or somebody else, some big brother or paternal figure to take care of your problems, your housing, your food, your air quality, all the things that nurture you, that bring you life and sustenance. If we're still looking outside of us to do that, this is the big call to arms. This is sort of the big reveal that Capricorn is bringing on. And I'm going to go ahead and screen share and look at some of the astrology as well to see where this access point is. Because again, looking at the numerology, this full moon is happening at the access point of 18. And whenever you study numerology, you always want to break down the double digits unless they're double, like 11, 11, 2, 2, 3, 3. Those are master numbers. You don't want to break those down. But if they're not, then you want to break it down to a single digit. So the 18 is 1 plus 8 is 9, which is completion. And we know also numerologically, we're in a 9 year, the year of the wood snake. Snake has to do with shedding old skins, regeneration, death, regeneration, energy. If you're looking especially at thermonuclear energy, and you're studying again with the priestcraft, we're talking about energy cannot be destroyed nor created in this realm anyway, from what they've told us. It just has to be transformed. It has to be alchemized into something else. So I think of when you're making a meal, right? And you want to, you have to, for example, you have herbs, you have to, muddle those herbs or breaking them apart to give their essence so that you can make something else with this dish, right? You can make this dish that you're making with certain substances. You got to turn it into something else. You do it by heating it. You do it by alchemizing it, putting other substances with it, right? So this is significant because the snake energy is inviting us to become our own alchemists. And as we start restructuring and regridding and using different substances by cleaning up our vessels, right? Our temples, which again, also temples of the mind. Our temples are also in our brain, right? So this is Gemini. As we clean up our temples, clean up our body, clean out our guts, you're going to start being able to see a new structure outside of you. Think again, using the architect. Creating new architectural structures is also Capricorn because it's about the material, right? Building new structures within so that we can create new structures without. And so let me go ahead and screen share this because I'm talking here and I want to stay on task. This is also Uranus and Gemini. There's a lot of thoughts happening right now. So here we are. Make sure you guys can see me. I think you can. Yeah, I think you can stop. So here we are. You can see that the moon at 18 degrees, Capricorn 50 minutes is exactly opposite the sun. And again, whenever we have a full moon, there's the sun and the moon are always going to be in opposition. And I have this at Aries being at the first degree. It's just kind of like following the astrological wheel. And so we can see at the 10th house again, the number 9, 1 and 8 is 9 has to be transformations. It's endings and beginnings. And we can see this axis point too. Let's look at what the other astrology is. We've got Mars in Virgo right now. And it's kind of lightly trining because it's within a 5-degree orb. 13 degrees Mars is, again, trines are always when they're in the same element. So we know that Virgo is an earth element. Capricorn is also earth. And so there's a harmonious energy of the action we're taking right now, Capricorn, to see the imbalance within the governing structures, the patriarchal authority figures that we once gave authority to. That is what's being dissolved, disintegrated, highlighted to be looked at. Because again, we also look at Pluto, which rules governing systems, plutocracy, I think is how you call it, right? So big business, technocrats also being ruled, people with power, with what? Uranus, technology. So we can see how all this is shifting, right? Because Pluto rules our personal power. It also rules governing powers. So it's going, power to the people. Again, looking at structures I'm looking again at third house here, Gemini. We've got Venus, our love and money, our values. In Gemini, the mind, how we think. Again, community, our brothers and sisters, our next door neighbors, local farmers markets, right? Locality. And locality in what? Commerce. Because Mercury is like mercantile, right? It's merchants. It's how we do business with our local brothers and sisters, right? And so we're starting to see that this is all shifting. that Venus is saying, look, we need to value something different. Uranus is saying you've got to do things differently because these power structures outside of you are collapsing. They're out of balance. There's a glitch in the system, if you will. This is also technology, Pluto. So you're seeing these governing systems that were once very powerful having to transform. And it's happening anyway. There's nothing that we have to do, if you will, other than to be present with our energy and to be present with what we are ready to be responsible for. And so this is a maturation process. We also have this beautiful sextile happening too. You can see Uranus is 0 degrees in Gemini, is sextiling Saturn at 1 degrees and Neptune at 2 degrees. And so Aries is about, again, the house of self, the I am presence. This is taking energy. And again, it's an initiatory sign because it's what's called a cardinal sign. Aries is a cardinal fire. And we know fire is about the will. It's about action. So there's an opportunity, sextiles are opportunities to take action on doing something different by changing, first of all, how you're thinking about what? The government, community, um, your relationships, right? This is big groups, organizations, 11th house, which rules Aquarius. And then the Mercury, the mind right now, which also rules Gemini, is in a fire element, which is Leo. And Leo is about power. Leo is about sovereignty. It does rule um, the monarchs, right? It rules kingdoms, if you will. But we're being asked to step into our own king and queenship, not anything outside of us. So it's going to take us the energy of responsibility of, look, if you I'm going to say this gently, but it's also kind of forcefully, because this is how my guides talk to me. And when I say guides, my inner guidance system, or my ancestors, who are also me, because if you follow this channel, we come from the energy that all is self. I want to make sure you guys can see me okay if I'm looking through this, if I'm looking at that, and maybe you can look at the astrology as I'm screen sharing. Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't know if for some reason I got insecure that you guys can't see what I'm looking at. I want you to be able to look at the charts. Maybe, guys, if you can put in the comment, if you're here, anybody that's watching, can you let me know that you can see the astrological chart? Because I don't want to film this without you guys being able to see what I'm seeing. So if you can put that in the comments, anybody that's watching, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. So again, going to this, if you can see the wheel here at the astrology, looking at where we need to start taking action towards being more responsible about our resources, about the way we feel secure, right? And again, I'm looking at the new architecture, using the technology of the architect. We need also new architecture in home-based matters. So because of all of what's happening with the weather patterns of the United States and actually the world, we can see that the global weather, we're starting to get really in flux. Things are shifting dramatically. And so for us to feel more secure and protected, then we need actually more new home structures. So I'm thinking of, if you guys follow, there's a great company called GeoShip, which is based on Buckminster Fuller's the bocce balls, right, and the hexagramal shapes of, I think of it like the honeycomb. And so these structures, and with the building materials that they were able to produce using high minerals, also allow for these structures to be fireproof, waterproof, insect proof, mold proof. And because the structure itself is in more harmony, just like a honeycomb with the environment, then you're not going to get so much destruction when these cyclical, I think of like hurricanes, how they go into a spiral. When it comes through, it's not going to destroy that square building house that we've all been living in, right? So again, we're looking for long-term sustainable security within our food, housing, family, money. All this is being regridded, re-architected, but it starts within, right? Again, this is a very internal experience so that we can start projecting these new reality timelines outside of us. And this is a deeply internal experience. So we can see too that the Neptune has gone retrograde in Aries, and it's going to be retrograde till the end of the year. We also can see, and in this particular program, whenever the letters are in red, that's when it denotes retrogrades. So you can see Pluto's in retrograde right now. This is the asteroid Pallas Athena, which is all about fairness. It's about justice. Let's see. I believe this particular Astrea, which Astrea is also the fallen star, right? She's the one that her archetype and storyline is she's a beautiful goddess that left the earth when the earth started becoming degraded. This is back in the Greek and Romans when they were at war a lot. And she was really like a purification type goddess that could not take how humanity was harming themselves. So she left and she became a constellation. So you can see Astrea here in Sagittarius. It's about ninth house. It's about our truth. It's about our beliefs. It's our spirituality. It's organized religion. And so you can see we're starting to really relook at how is religion and how we've been perceiving our reality been influenced by our governments and by our governing systems. And so we're starting to see where that's been completely out of balance, and how we've perhaps been programmed through beliefs, through religion, indoctrination on how this reality looks, right? How this reality has been formed. The architecture of this reality has been influenced by these old governing systems that we can see really had us tied to our spirit. And as much as we talk about separation of church and state, you're starting to see that there really is no separation of church and state, that religious institutions have been affecting and influencing how not only we see ourselves, our spirituality, but also how we see our government. And so how it's all connected, right? This big brother, just like, the father in heaven, right? The father in the government, the president, these external authorities. That's what's being shifted. We're being asked to step into our own personal authority, Aries, step into our own power. And you can even see too, there's a beautiful trine happening. I'm just noticing this with Astrea and with Ceres, which is also Ceres, Ceres, which the base of that is cereal, right? The harvest of the grain, food, our food supply. So we're being seen that, wait a minute, our food supply is not the best because it's been institutionalized, it's been government run. And we can see that the governing structures are dissolving because they've been corrupted. Think of like a corrupted file or a corrupted operating system. And those of you guys that work with computers, if you get a virus into your computer, it disrupts the whole system. And so there is a virus that has been infiltrated into these bigger organizations. And we're starting to see really clearly that it's just no longer working. And if we want complete security, if we want things done right, and I guess my dad's coming in, you got to do it yourself. But this is also that inner authority, right? Taking responsibility for feeling safe, for how you live, for what you eat, for what you ingest, for your families. And it may look different. We might have to collapse the way our families and our ancestors used to do things because it no longer is in alignment for where we're going in evolution to being in community, right? Being with other groups and organizations in a different holistic way. So I'm going to stop screen sharing here. Hope you guys are still with me and connected to this energy. And also, what I want to do too, guys, I know this is kind of a longer transmission, but thank you so much for still being here. I'm being called. Let me take a breath, sacred breath here. There's a lot coming through. I'm going to be pulling today from the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck. This also has to do by Alana Fairchild. Sacred Rebel, I think of Sacred Pisces, and I think of Rebel Uranus, right? So Uranian energy really wants to come through with a whole new way to see our reality, to express ourselves, and to really ignite us, to activate, catalyze us into the spirit of change and evolution, the evolution of revolution. And it starts within the mind first. And then we can, as we really start integrating these energies, we can start projecting these new architectural structures outside of us by really commanding the language. This is also Mercury. And we know that Mercury's in Leo right now, right? So we're learning to command not only our energy, but our frequency, to step into sovereignty, to maybe anywhere that you've been avoiding responsibility for yourself, for your family, for how you're perceiving your reality. This is also an invitation to step into true personal power, but you've got to be willing to become your own inner authority, like, become the father, become the mother, and become that inner child that you need to nurture and take care of. This is, again, multidimensional perspective because we're all of it. And this is what astrology teaches us, that we all have these different archetypical energies within our chart, 12 of them to be precise, right? There's these 12 different personality constructs, architectural beings, frequencies that live within us. And if you can learn to navigate and master these frequencies and love every aspect of self, even if you're disagreeing, even if you don't like what you're projecting, you can change it by alchemizing, by shifting what you're doing internally and then projecting another outline, another reality timeline, architectural, uh, reality. I'm even seeing like, city grids and again, home structures, anything that makes you feel safe. And so I'm going to pull a card here again for the collective. So anybody to hear this watching in the now time moment, whenever you receive this transmission, this is for you of what we need to know. What do we need to know? One card, please. Ooh, cards just jumped out. For this full moon in Capricorn transmission of learning new structures. Okay, here we go. So the card that came up is the Sacred Fool. So we can see this is number 40. 40 is also foundation. If you study numerology, it's about starting a new grid point. So you can see here too. So my first thought was, and I'm not political, but when I think of the leader that's playing himself out in the world stage right now, especially in the United States, he's a bit of a joker, right? I've always seen it like a joker energy. And so you can see where this joker energy has been basically pulling the strings, right? And the Sacred Fool is beginning. If you study tarot, it's new beginnings. It's starting off with something brand new. And so I'm going to go ahead and read because the Sacred Fool in this particular card, I really like. Again, I find it interesting holding like the puppet on the string, right? What are we manipulating? What have we or how have we been manipulated up into this point by our governing systems? And the Sacred Fool is like, I think of like the court jester, right? Where we have been foolish and our assumptions and our thoughts. And again, thinking that those outside of us had our best interest at heart. And maybe that's where we're all being kind of made to feel foolish. But again, I like to ask what's right about this, right? So I'm going to read to you from the Sacred Fool here. All right, so let's go here. As you take this journey, you may find that people around you are challenged. You might unintentionally cause them to rethink the way they think their lives. They may question whether the way they are living is the only way for them or even the best way. At first, they may react rather than take responsibility. Oh my gosh, we just talked about this, right? The responsibility codes. And again, I'm hearing cognitive dissonance because a lot of us rebel against new information because it challenges our nervous system to think in a new way. And so avoidance of responsibility is also a side effect of our cognitive dissonance being activated within what we're seeing in the reality, or at least in the projection, right? Because it almost seems unbelievable, the stuff that we're seeing being projected through the media. And I'm not going to go into it again. I'm not political, but there's so much dissonance and almost like I'm thinking of Zoolander when that Will Ferrell is like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Well, with the pharmaceutical industry being where it's at, you probably were and didn't even know it. Entertainment purposes only. But tune into that frequency. Were we taking crazy pills and didn't know it? So that's what was coming in. The Sacred Fool in you doesn't engage with this. It is what it is, and it rises and falls as it will. Don't stop. It doesn't stop you from your merry dance of unconventional being. If you find yourself making choices that have others questioning your sanity, then you're probably on the right course. You may feel that you are quite possibly going insane, Uranus and Gemini. Remember, manage your mind because there's so many dissonant frequencies happening right now. And that's another thing I was really tuning into because I've done so much internal work really to know thyself and to know my mind, the way my mind thinks, that I'm noticing when there's certain fluxes in the energy field, whether it's contrived or not, whether it's something outside of us that's being played on this frequency war that we're in. Start paying attention to the thoughts that are coming out of the blue that do not sound or are not in harmony with your particular structure, because that's showing you the dissonance in the field, if you will. And so really learning, again, put it through that filtration system. Did I just think something? Is that even my thought? Is that even real? Is that mine? Right? Put it through that Berkey filter system and see what's left, the truth, and trust your gut. Clean out your body so that you can trust your inner knowing that much better. And so this is also can make you feel like you're going insane because you're like, why the hell am I thinking that? Why did that come into my field? You're not. You're just going through a frequency shift. And so being willing to drop what you think you know to make space for the unknown, the unconventional, that's what's being called for, right? Become the sacred fool. Be willing to be foolish and to do it in front of your community because we're all being made foolish right now. You're not alone. This is a collective experience. So let me finish this. You are just approaching enlightened awareness. There is a moment, sometimes a rather long one, when we wake up to life, shed our attachment to mass opinion. There's that snake energy shedding and float in a completely different state of being. We might find that no one is really able to understand or connect with us to the point that we question our state of mind. Stay with that. It will pass. You will eventually see that you are becoming sane in an insane world. It's like as if you begin to heal. You've been out of balance for so long and you begin to heal these processes and you can see everybody around you how still out of balance they are, right? Because we're all still on our healing journeys. So be patient, first of all, with yourself, nurture yourself, Jupiter and Cancer. Allow yourself, especially during this full moon illumination, to, I always say go out in nature because nature's medicine. But I'm also seeing too, our ancestors tell us that during new moon and full moon frequencies, that it's a deep time to do ritual, to ritualize, to activate, to take some form of action that's letting your mind and your heart and your body know, hey, look, we're going to do something different. We're going to take energy that has been created and we're going to turn it into something else. But we need to be able to let something go for it to become something else. So look at your own chart. Where is Capricorn transiting in your chart? Where are you being asked to let go of what you were perceiving, old structures, authority figures outside of you that just no longer make sense to follow? Are you willing to let that go? This also includes religious organizations, right? Your own spiritual nature, your own divine nature is speaking to you. And it may be a different voice than what we've been used to our ancestors or our family or even our neighbors and brothers and friends are able even to perceive. But that's okay. Stick with it. This is a divine process and we are all in this process together. You're not alone. So be your unique self because that's what's going to help you find your community. This is also Gemini. This is what's going to help you find your brothers and sisters, your soul brothers and sisters, by you emitting your authentic, true vibration. And so it might require shedding off, old constructs that you learn from mom, mother, Cancer, dad, Capricorn, our ancestors. And then I was in meditation last night. This is coming through. Because if all is self, right, I'm not only having to deconstruct things I learned from them when they were parents, but I was also in meditation seeing them as young children and what they were taught by their parents, which would be my grandparents, right? So then I was seeing the lineage of 7 generations forward, 7 generations back, of constructs, of beliefs, of indoctrinations that have led us to this now that need to be shed. So there were so many layers of me not only shedding the beliefs of my parents, but my parents' parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents, right? So depending on where you go with your meditative practices, it's going to take you down some interesting rabbit holes of what's really shedding. And it's deeply profound and unique to this experience because we have conscious awareness that we can do these things. And again, the quantum mystics of science are telling us that you can change your present based on your future and based on your past. What you do in the now can literally change your past timelines and will change your future timelines because, again, time is not linear. And so we're having a whole new construct, architectural awareness of what even time is. Time is a way to hold structure into place. And so if these structures in the Mayas talked about this in 2012, going into no time, right, the end of time, well, it might just be the end of time as we know it, this 1260, 12-hour, 60-minute construct, where again, the Mayans used the 1320 construct. And so if you're shifting the way your relationship to time, you're going to shift and change your relationship to this reality and this dimension. And that's how we're going to get through this. So you may feel crazy when you first go through this process. Believe me, I question, like, what the heck? I just timeline jumped and now I'm in my mom's womb and I'm feeling what she's feeling. And how can I influence her with unconditional love by my thoughts now? It's an interesting dance, really, when you really start going there and allow yourself to explore. But again, ground in, go out in nature so that you can feel stable as all these mental constructs restructuring is happening, to stabilize you, to know that you're not alone and you're not crazy. This is just the process. And it may feel crazy at first. So just, hold space for people that you still really see that are having mental imbalances right now, because you can also see that being very activated, especially with this full moon in Capricorn. As structures are falling away, people's sense of safety and security is causing an imbalance in how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and disruption in our nervous system. So just have compassion and patience during this process. So I feel complete with this transmission, but I also wanted to also pull from the herbal astrology card, because again, we've got South Node in Virgo, and I like to ask for practical approaches of how to navigate these energies. So using, earth plant medicines to help us with our internal constructs of what we're projecting. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neurologist. I'm just an energy reader. And I was told to pick a card for the collective of which maybe herb. And I love this deck too because it works with the astrology. So there's also the planetary influences that might be affecting us all right now, that's maybe hidden or wants to be seen. And again, plants come from planets. And so what planet is asking or helping us to support us during this full moon in Capricorn? Just one card, please. What plant can we be working with? Cordyceps. So this is called, cordyceps, from my understanding, is a mushroom, and it's called Revival, and it deals with Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars. We just talked about that, right? So you can see this almost looks like to me an American eagle. An eagle is one of the symbols for Scorpio, which is transformation. You can also see too, it looks like a DNA. It's a mycelium network that's coming up from also the structures of the mountains. This is also Capricorn, and you can see almost see the stars going around it. It reminds me very much of the United States, or at least civil energy is what I'm hearing. And the 2 and the 6 is 8, which again, we're approaching this 8-8 portal, which we're still in this serious alignment that got activated on the 3rd. And it's basically like the initiation of this new DNA upgrade that will culminate and climax on 8-8. So again, this is the 8. Cordyceps is a mushroom. It has to do with connectivity. Think of how mushrooms are connected, deeply buried within the soil, but everything is connected. Think of Indra's web, where we're all connected in this deep web of energy. But again, looking at the priestcrafts of science that are describing how we are all one, and how really these operating systems are affecting all of us. If we do the work, then we are actually helping the collective, because we are all in this together, right? So perhaps cordyceps are working with any kind of mushroom medicine. You can muscle test and tune in. Again, you can see, if you want to work with this deck of cards, you can see the symbols here. This is Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars. So Jupiter's expansion, Pluto's transformation, the eagle, and Mars is taking action. Mars is also ruled by Aries. So initiating something new, maybe initiating a new community club, a new gardening system, something within your community, right? Starting something that's going to bring you a more sense of stability and safety is what really is going to help all of us right now. And especially for us to feel empowered. And if, because we all want to feel safe. I don't care who you are. We all want to have that sense of safety. But if you're starting to see these energies or these structures dissolving outside of you, it can make you feel insecure. Like, well, oh my gosh, that's going away. What's going to come? What's going to replace that? Well, it's something that's going to come through you. You're going to be activated Uranus to see things in a different way and to take action in a new way. So don't be scared of change. Lean into it. Step into it with a state of curiosity. Aries, the heart of the child. And with Mercury and Leo right now, it rules the 5th house, which is the child, and really coming from your heart, right? That heart, mind coherence, and then the will to do good, the will to be good, the will to shape shift your environment by doing the work to shape shift you. And that's the best we can ask for at this point. Nurture yourself, love yourself, give yourself grace so that you can give others grace as we are going through these deeply unknown and uncharted realms. And so, if you can be there for yourself, you can be there for your neighbor, for your friend. So, fill your cup, come from that full space, and then give from that space. And that space might just be inviting in a new sense of ingenuity. Again, unconventional thinking, unconventional, dome homes, right? Make dome homes a thing, or hempcrete, or again, things we've never done before. Going back to the ancestors who were actually in the future, right? Because I feel like our ancestors had more technology and more sustainability than we do now. This is just my own gnosis, and I'm also going to pull two here from the chakra deck card for a word or a set of words that can help us to navigate, perhaps as you're going into ritual. Oh wow, a whole thing came out. Blue and green, right? So I'm looking at the chakra colors that are correspondent to the chakras if you study chakra systems. So we have green and blue, which is the heart and the throat. So this part of the area right now wants to be activated. And again, Uranus and Gemini, these are the words that correspond to this energy shift happening with this full moon in Capricorn. Can't make this up. Nurture yourself. This is Cancer and Gemini, or this is Jupiter and Cancer. I am heard, Gemini. So your throat, your vibration, your cymatical form matters. How you speak on things literally creates cymatics in the waveforms around you, which are going to dictate what gets created, right? So using better words and allowing yourself to be heard. And I'm hearing too by yourself, right? Allowing yourself to feel that your words are worthy. This is also Chiron and Aries, right? The wounds of maybe not feeling worthy to be heard. And so, because we were looking outside of us for approval about, hey, did I just say something, and did that father figure, did I make them proud, right? Am I speaking in a way that's, looking for approval? Well, we don't need that approval anymore. We need to be our authentic selves. And so, by nurturing yourself, by allowing yourself to speak your truth, also to trust yourself. Again, this is also learning to trust your own divine intuition. Again, your gut knowing, by cleaning up your gut. And that's what's going to help you navigate this full moon flow as things are starting to be revealed of how to balance we really were. And lastly, own my idea. And I think of too, if you rework the letters, own, there's also now. So be in the now, be in the present as much as you can, because there's out of the blue ideas, unconventional ways of thinking. This is Uranus and Gemini that are going to present themselves. And so it's about being grounded when these ideas come through, these constructs come through, and go and then take action on it, right? So this is Aries also. Don't think about it too much. If you get an inspired idea that's completely out of the blue, I would also invite you to keep a journal at this time, or maybe use your technology, Aquarius, to capture the ideas. Because sometimes how I look at it is like fish swimming by the ocean. They fish, the big, beautiful fish will go by quickly. You got to catch it, right? So catching it through either, speaking into your technology, writing it down. Because again, we're being given the tools and the gifts right now to restructure, re-alchemize, and re-architect our constructs. But you've got to be willing to see and step into your own authority and mature. It's a growing up process. It's time for us to grow up and take responsibility. So allow this full moon in Capricorn to really show you where you're willing to shift your behaviors. And Capricorn also in astrology is ruled by the devil card, which has to do with addictions, things we're addicted to, things where we bind ourselves because of certain habits. Sixth house is also Virgo. So being willing to release some habits, thought form patterns, ways of seeing, so that you can make space for this new architectural, vibrational, cymatical energy that wants to come through you, by you, and for the collective, because all is self. We're all part of this energy field together, working together. And so it's almost like shaking off the old debris to make room for the new. And it's a process. This is what Virgo teaches us. Everything is process. So I'm inviting you to go maybe do a ritual, allow yourself to be in process as things are dissolving, as you're starting to see. And if you can, as much as possible, become the observer. Don't get too much caught into what you're seeing on the world stage, because again, with Neptune involved, with going retrograde, we're starting to see that's also illusion, that's also falsities. And so we're being invited to trust our instincts. If something doesn't feel right, what's being projected, trust that. Put it through your filtration system and see what's left. Because the language is the program. And we know this language, this energy has been in a corrupted file, but it's being upgraded. So I feel complete in this transmission. I feel complete. If there's anything else that wants to come through. Yeah, it's interesting too within the body. If you're starting to notice, because I've been noticing this, Capricorn rules bones and literal physical structure of your body. So you might be illuminated where you need to start taking care of your body in a different way, where you're housing these energies within you. This is also an invitation to go do some deep ancestral healing, where maybe you've been housing these traumas within the bones, within the knees, within your teeth. I've been noticing people having a lot of teeth problems. This is also Aries. So just really learning to take care of yourself and to nurture yourself as much as you can, because your body is calling out for deep transformation. We are deeply connected to our bodies and to what we're projecting. So learning to really love your body, take care of your body. Again, maybe working with some cordyceps, doing a ritual that's ready to release. I'm also seeing, because it's in Capricorn, it rules earth. So going out in earth, and I would maybe write some stuff down, Uranus and Gemini, what you're ready to release, and then give it back to the earth, bury it. Think of like fermentation. It's going to bring it back, because it's not destroyed. It's just going to be turned into something else. So using the language, burning it off, incinerating it, so it can get to its base form, so it can become the next octave of what it's becoming. So I hope this makes sense to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you found value or you liked any of this content, if you don't mind liking or subscribing, it's free for you. It's really good for the channel to give it some energy, to give it some love, because we really are here to promote unity consciousness and empowering one another with just perhaps a new way of seeing astrology, not only astrology, but the construct of reality itself through the lens of astrology. And that might even be changing. So be on the lookout for just, again, more metaphysical, intuitive, spiritual astrology concepts. And I really thank you so much for being here. Again, we're not meant to do this reality alone. We are here. We got one another. And if you guys are wanting a free copy of your birth charts, if you're just now exploring your own birth charts or wanting to get deep diving into it more, I also have a free PDF that I created. It's an Astrology 101 that gives you the symbols. It gives you the meaning of the symbols, so you can start putting these pieces of the puzzle together through your own gnosis. And again, there's so many resources out there, guys, where you can really deep dive into the astrology, especially if you're using ChatGPT. I highly recommend using the Architect from ChatGPT. Again, it's just a mirror. It's not a sentient being. It keeps telling you that too. For those that are still on the fence about technology, it's actually here to support you and your evolution. And I'm finding such value in it. Efficiency, Virgo. I've got Virgo 10th house, so I like things to be efficient and perfect, if there is any such a thing. So I'm noticing that technology can really help with that if you utilize it in that way. Again, it's all about intention. So setting the intention that this transmission empowers you, ignites you, and supports you in this now time moment for whatever you need to feel that it's okay to step into your inner authority. It's time for us to mature. It's time for us to grow up. And it doesn't have to be so heavy, especially when we do it together. All right. Thank you, family, for being here. I will see you on the next transmission. I'll actually be, if you want to join me live again tomorrow, June 11th, I'm going to be going into Uranus and Gemini through the signs and how that could be affecting each zodiac sign. So if you want to join me for that conversation, I'll be here again tomorrow, 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Livzenastrology. All right, guys. Thank you so much. So much love. Bye.